Welcome to Here Where You Belong, your go-to podcast for exploring belonging with your host and belonging expert, Dia Irby. We are thrilled to have you join us. Together, we'll dive into the depths of what it means for each of us to find our own place in the world, whether it's within our communities, our relationships, or within ourselves. Today's episode is meant to inspire, uplift, and remind you that no matter where you are or where you're headed, you have a place where you truly belong. So grab a cozy spot and settle in. Welcome to Here Where You Belong.
Welcome to Here Where You Belong. I'm so glad you've joined us. And oh my goodness, have I got a guest today? I had the opportunity to meet Lisa Berry in South Carolina. She's my southern neighbor at a conference, Toastmasters conference. And I just had to have her come and join us and share her wisdom. Let me tell you a little bit about Lisa. Lisa Berry is CEO and co-founder of Bear Logics. Ooh, I'm going to ask you how to pronounce that. She leverages 25 years in tech leadership to coach others, focusing on confidence as the cornerstone for effective leadership. That's important. Driven by genuine empathy forged through personal and professional challenges, her approach focuses on mindset shifts, reframing obstacles into opportunities, and fostering personal evolution. Lisa believes this journey isn't solitary. It's about empowering individuals to thrive, creating a ripple effect of positive change. Lisa developed the Radiant Leaders program centered on the 4 pillars of leadership excellence. She believes that together we will break barriers, build confidence, and shape an empowered future when we belong together. And that's why I wanted to have her on here. She's got this belonging thing understood. Is there anything you'd like to add to that?
What I'd like to add is thank you for allowing me to be here. Thank you. I'm so grateful we got to connect at the conference because we do have a very similar mindset and it's so exciting. I love to meet people that have the same goals in mind for helping others. And that's what it's all about. And for me, that's it. I get everything I get out of life being able to help someone else.
That is what it's about, and helping people. So I do ask my guest, what is a story about belonging or not belonging that has impacted you? And you shared some things. If you'd like to share with our audience your story.
Absolutely. One of the first things that comes to mind when I'm asked that question is the experience I had back in the 3rd grade. So that would have made me about 8 years old or so. What happened is I grew up in the city of Detroit, and they decided they were going to do this thing called busing. And that meant students from this school were now going to go to this school and students from this school and so on and so forth. So it didn't matter if you could walk to school, you were now going to be on a bus, school bus going to a school with people you've never met before. And I didn't really think much of it. It was like, okay, it's a new experience. I'm going to a new school, until some things that were not so comfortable started happening. Regularly in the girls' restroom, there was a girl that would tell me how much I didn't belong there and how ugly I was. And she just very, very horrible things and we know children say some horrible things to each other, but it really bothered me. And she had a couple other friends that were helping her out quite regularly to make me feel uncomfortable. They started to steal my lunch. So back then we did the brown bag thing, or you had the lunch box, and this was before Ziploc bags, right? So that'll tell you how old I am. And what I remember distinctly, and it's so funny how these things really imprint in not just in our mind, but in our soul. My grandmother was the one that happened to pack my lunch that day, and Fritos corn chips was a treat. If you could think of such a thing, as snacks are so abundant nowadays, but that was a treat. And because there weren't Ziploc bags at that point, what she did was she took the rest of the bag. So I got what was left in the bag as my treat in my lunch, and somehow she bound it up for me and it was in my brown bag. And that's how I knew who stole my lunch, because that was not a common thing really for someone to have, right? I mean, the odds of someone in my classroom having the same exact lunch as I had, especially with the bag and everything, was very, very odd. but I was so scared. I was so afraid to say anything because I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't feel like I was liked to begin with. And so I figured if these are people I've never met telling me how awful I am and taking my lunch and doing these things, I must not be a good person. Something really must be wrong with me. And I really didn't realize back then that that was one of the things that was setting the stage for who I was going to go on to be as I got older. But it really did impact me because I didn't feel like I belonged. Now, eventually things did change. I made friends, and I believe at that point I probably forgot about that experience. But for me to be 50 something years old and recalling it now, I know how much that did have an impact on me not belonging.
Well, it was buried in your tissues of your body, if
Yeah.
we can say it that way, that subconsciously you don't even know the impact that. When in your adulthood did you remember back that story?
That particular story actually came into focus after I joined Toastmasters. So I joined Toastmasters because I had another experience in high school that I did not know impacted me professionally and what was happening or not happening in my career. And I'd be happy to share that at some point if you'd like to hear it. But when I was in Toastmasters, I got brave enough because I always wanted to do a TEDx talk. And I got selected. I auditioned. I got selected for one of the TEDx Hilton Head Women events. And as I was doing that particular work for that particular talk, which is called Own Your Weird, those are the types of things that started really emanating. And I really started remembering them and thinking, whoa, I don't want other children to feel like that. No child, no human being should feel like that. So my talk was going to focus, and of course, it focuses on confidence. I mean, and that's kind of where everything came full circle for me because confidence is the paramount, the big pillar in the sky of being who you are and learning to accept who that is, no matter despite what anybody else says. And I used that memory and the other one from high school to help write that talk because I lived it. I lived and breathed that. And I didn't realize until I was actually remembering and going through different iterations of the talk and practicing how many other things that happened to me, how many other the reason the real reason why I'm who I am today and what I needed to accomplish or what I wasn't able to accomplish was a culmination of all those different experiences that some may be able to just let roll off their shoulders. But for me, they're embedded, just as you said, they were embedded deep within, and I needed to bring them out.
So, in everything that you're saying, one, you didn't feel like you belonged, but we all do belong. And part of finding out that we can belong, and your TEDx talk, which I've watched and is excellent, Own Your Weird, Claim Your Weird. Is it Own Your Weird?
Mhm.
Um, it's all about getting your mind right and knowing you belong to yourself first. You can't belong anywhere else until you belong to yourself.
Exactly.
Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. And
So
it's a journey of learning, growing up that way, not always being comfortable in who I was or wondering who I was. Never feeling like my name may be Lisa, but I don't feel like who is Lisa? What is Lisa? Right? I didn't know. And so that journey really began back in 2009, but it's just been a process, continuous process, and a lot of hard work. It's been a lot of repeated scenarios, if you will. The players may have been different, but the type of scenario when I really do some reflection and sit back and go, oh, I was
same
in.
song, second verse.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, wow, we're singing the same song here, and maybe I need to change the tune or change the station because we don't want to sing that song anymore.
Right. So it sounds like you have, through your experience, you developed a process for yourself that now you teach others
I do.
how
Absolutely.
to go through the process to learn how to belong to yourself, to connect to your real self, because belonging is all about connecting and connections. And so you want to tell us a little bit about the process, or you
Absolutely.
can I know somebody out there might be saying, what's the story in high school?
Oh, and I'm
Go
happy.
ahead
And
and
that might
share
give a
that.
little more into the process because that plays a big role, as
Sure.
does my grandfather. Back in high school, I had this bright idea. I'm going to run for class president in my senior year. What I didn't really think about was, other than the fact that I want to help, right? I want to serve. I've always had that servant leader heart. You have to give a speech in front of the student body. That's 500 students. I grew up in Detroit, so Detroit High School, that's a lot of peers, and you're in the auditorium, you have to make this speech. And I remember being in there, and I talk about it a lot because you're gripping the lectern, and I had this written speech that I uttered and don't remember a whole lot of, other than things about, I have, National Honor Society, GPA, organized, want to serve, blah, blah, blah. Um, Ran back to my seat, sat down as fast as I could, my friend next to me, and I always emphasize friend because he was supposedly my friend, Eric, said to me, "You sucked." And I just sunk further deeper into the chair. But then the person who was after me to speak, that I was, of course, running against, spoke immediately about how it doesn't matter what your GPA is, it doesn't matter how organized you are, it doesn't matter that you're this servant leadery, whatever it is. The takeaway that she said was, "We're going to party and I'm going to help us have a good time." And of course, she was,
Who won?
yeah, exactly. And that was an experience that I didn't realize till many 25 years later set me up for not being confident when I went for certain jobs or certain interviews. I was brave enough to fill out the application or go to the interview, but I didn't get the jobs. But yet I was the person in the industry that was sought after for my knowledge, the person that was the SME, if you will, the subject matter expert. But I wasn't being given the promotions. But can you fix this for me? And it kept happening and happening. And it really wasn't until I moved to the Charleston area with my husband, who was in the Air Force, and that's what got us to South Carolina, where I was actually working in a bridal salon. And one of the bridal consultants said to me, "Why are you here?" I was an assistant manager. "Why are you here? You are too smart to be somewhere like this. You're wasting your talents." And I just looked at her and couldn't believe she said that to me. And I could have been offended, right? Like, "Why are you here?" But what she was telling me was she saw something in me that I still hadn't seen yet. And that was back in 2003. So it took me till 2000, from 2003 to 2008. So another 5 years before I really was able to bravely start doing that reflection and start doing the work, because I finally started to see what this other person saw, what others may have been seeing. And my husband's a big cheerleader for me. If it wasn't for him, I don't think I would be where I am today. Because as much as he wants to stay in the background, he is the one that's pushing me up and helping me to go and do and be.
Have you been in contact with that? Here I am now with that person that said, "Why are you here?"
No, because I don't know where she ended up. I know she left that particular salon, but I don't know where she
You
is. But
might have been an angel unaware just there to say that
right?
to you.
Yeah. I mean, you just never know. It's so many beautiful things when you really start looking and watching and seeing them happen are there. And that's the other thing, is the shift was starting to see opportunities, not obstacles. We can be negative all we want. It's real easy to be negative. And I've said, even to be fired from a job, I could, you look at that as, "Oh my gosh, what am I going to do now?"
Right.
But instead, I'm choosing to say, I'm free. I'm free to do the next big adventure.
Right, right.
And so that's where that shift comes in.
Well, there's a quote, "A man sees what he looks for."
Mhm.
So if you're looking for opportunities, that's what you're going to find. If
Exactly.
you're looking for obstacles and hard times and hardships and failures, you're going to find it.
Exactly.
So, like Henry Ford, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Exactly. And that's exactly where the program came, what's now grown into the 4 pillars program, the Radiant Leaders program. Because what I've found through, of course, teaching and teaching the master class, it started off just for up and coming or rising leaders. But what I found is this benefits everyone. It will benefit everyone that has some sort of confidence that they're lacking, whether it's constant confidence you're lacking, or fear of belonging, or if it's just with one aspect of your life. these 4 pillars that I've put together, I've put them to use first to make sure if they work for me, I feel like they will work for other people because it's allowing yourself the freedom, trusting yourself enough to be able to be brave enough to dig in and look at these 4 different aspects of your life and then bring them together.
Okay, that is amazing. And hold that thought, because we're going to come back, and if you can tell us what those 4 pillars are, we'll be right back. Don't go away. Hey there! Isn't my guest amazing? So glad you joined us today. In this world that often feels disconnected, building community and fostering belonging are essential. That's why I created this podcast, to bring inspiring people to you, to encourage you to create that sense of belonging and community, no matter where you are. If you're being blessed by my guest, and we have some more, like, subscribe, and share this podcast. You know who needs to hear this. Stay connected, stay true to yourself, and always remember, you belong. Now, back to our amazing guest. And we're back, and I can't wait to hear those 4 pillars. Tell us the big reveal. What are those 4?
Absolutely. So the 4 pillars are the first thing that I talk with everybody, and the 4 pillars go in concert with each other. So if you think of it almost like a jigsaw puzzle of pillars, confidence is the actual foundation, and we need something to hold up our confidence. And the first thing that we need is to understand our mission. And first and foremost, no matter what, you have to agree that you will be kind to yourself. You will give yourself a break, that much needed break. Give yourself the benefit of the doubt. If you didn't do today what you needed to do, I guarantee there was one thing you were able to do. One thing, and that's all it is. Be kind to yourself.
Maybe
Exactly. Exactly. What you didn't get done today, I have a way to help you get it done tomorrow, because there's little increments that we can work on. Now, once you're in agreement that you're going to be kind to yourself, then we really get into the main 3 pillars, if you will, because we come back to our mission again. And the first one is your past. Looking at your past and being brave enough to take an honest look at your past. Just as those couple of stories that I shared with you, we all have something that's been embedded in us, something that we can look at and say, wow, I really didn't think about how getting my lunch stolen and being told I was dumb or ugly really affected me. And how's that affecting me in my present? What is that? Can I make those connections? And if we start to pull the threads and start to think about them, they don't necessarily all come right at once, but we'll start to be aware. And of course, you start with that awareness of there's something there, and I'm going to make that connection so that when I see that happening in my present, I can start that mindset shift and I can pivot, because I'm not what they said I was. I do belong. I am a good person. I am a kind person. So what do I need to do in my present is not going to be affected from what happened in my past. Now, I will say the part about working with your past, as you know, Dia, is some things that people experience in their past, they need to work out with a different type of professional, and that's okay.
Right.
And that's absolutely okay. But you do have to be brave enough to say, I'm ready to change. I don't know what I need to do to change, but I do need help. And I even have a coach. I have a coach. I run things by my coach all the time. What team doesn't have a team of people working with them side by side, right? Whether they're your guides, your coaches, whatever they are, we need a team to work together.
Right.
So
That
when we're
community.
exactly, that's
and
exactly that sense of community, because there's always somebody that you'll be able to glean a little bit of knowledge from, a tip from, a piece of whatever it is, to be able to help you think about something a little bit differently. And so a lot of times for me, it's just looking at something from a different perspective, right? Where, you maybe, a lot of times I'll use the analogy of a drawing that my friend's daughter did, and it's this really distorted ball. And what it is her soccer ball. Now, most people wouldn't think of it as a soccer ball, but that's what she sees is her beautiful, perfect soccer ball. And it took me a couple times asking her what it was to understand it and see it from her perspective. And then I was able to do that. So it's no different in the things that we do every day in our lives, is being able to be open enough to look at that, shifting that different perspective. And then we're able to get to the next pillar, which is working in our present. What's going right? There's always something going right. And if there is something that you feel that needs a little bit of an adjustment, maybe it feels like an obstacle, let's look at it to see what it is and see the opportunity in it. What's the shift? Where's the lesson? Where's the part that we can learn from, that we can pivot just a little bit? And sometimes that's really taking something that may be overwhelming and shifting it down into what I've learned from my coach even are micro tasks. So a lot of people know about mind mapping, but I like to do micro tasks where I take, for instance, if it's, writing a paper, right? Maybe you're writing a paper that's on a particular topic, and it needs to be, it's 4 sections and it's due, next Friday. Well, for some people that could be very daunting, very overwhelming. Oh my gosh, I got to get this whole thing done. But let's start to chunk it out, take it down into smaller bites so that it's easier for you to actually think about getting it done. But we don't tend to do that with our lives, with our everyday lives. We can do that in business because we're taught that. In fact, one of my expertise is working as an agile software product owner. So I know those practices, right? And talking about being balanced in your work-life balance, but it's not a work-life balance. It's about a body-mind balance. And then the work, we can add the work in there. But if our body and our mind are not in sync, we're not going to be able to be productive in the other avenues of our lives. So it's really about balancing them all and
Right.
being, again, open enough to say, okay, this isn't going right for me. Maybe I'm at a job that I'm not comfortable with anymore, or I've outgrown it, or there's no opportunity for me to excel, but I'm scared to death to try to go somewhere else. Okay, so maybe we need to find out what it is you're scared of. A lot of times people are afraid of the interview. It's not so much that the job, that they're going to a new job, they're afraid they have to start interviewing again. So maybe that's something we work on together, is practicing interviews. Believe it or not, it really does work. Practicing those skills, it becomes much more easy to accommodate yourself. And that's another way in life. We forget that there's these little things that we can do to help ourselves every day because we're not being kind to ourselves.
Right. Take the next manageable step.
Exactly. And so once you get into the groove of, and it is really starting with something very, very small and celebrating that win the next day too. Looking at your paper or wherever you take notes or however you look at it and saying, I did that yesterday. Let's build on that. And it starts to become easier and easier and easier. And then when you're really comfortable, and you do become comfortable in your present, for me as a workaholic, it became uncomfortable for me to relax. I didn't realize I didn't know how to relax. That was something, it's a skill that I have to still work on a little bit, because I've just been this driven people pleaser, take care of everybody my whole life. And my husband's been very good at saying, okay, you just need to relax. And I would get mad at him. What do you mean relax? Don't tell me to relax. I don't need to relax.
I've
But
got
I
stuff to
did.
do.
Right. But I did. And he was really just trying to be helpful. And so it's a shift. It really is. So once you get comfortable in your present, then let's start seeing how your present's going to affect your future. Because then you start working on different goals. And they don't have to be these, it's not going to be this goal of, well, I want to make $5 million in 5 years. Well, that's not quite the right kind of goal. Maybe eventually you want to make $5 million, but let's talk about what the steps are, because you're going to have to start here and start going up and up and up and up to get to that. And there's some sort of planning that has to take place instead of just, jumping off the diving board into the pool. So that's where I work with folks on understanding what it is in our future, what's reachable, right? So we talk about SMART goals, right? What are those goals, understanding what they are, how do we reach them, and how do we build upon them so that they're building blocks to get us where we want to be. And then
this whole process is helping your mind shift.
yes,
And when you're seeing little steps of success, it's building up your confidence.
it absolutely is. It absolutely is. And you start to forget, well, you look behind you and go, well, who is she? I don't, that may have been me back then, but that's not me now. And in fact, a good example of that for me is I was deathly afraid of public speaking, right? Now I'll speak in front of anybody. I don't care if it's 2 people, 2,500, 25,000 people, online, offline, wherever. I'm not afraid. But before, because of that high school experience, I was deathly afraid of public speaking.
Well,
And
you
so,
have done some work. So again, we have to know that we belong to ourselves. I have
yeah.
an acronym, CLAIM,
Mhm.
that we want to claim other people, but we can't claim other people if we don't claim ourselves, if we don't choose ourselves, love ourselves,
Exactly.
acknowledge, invest in, and know that we are made for greatness and that we matter. So it's that the whole belonging concept. And what you've done is created from your experience and success a system to help other people claim themselves or know that they belong. And that's amazing, amazing, wonderful. So I ask also my guest, what is your greatest accomplishment? I like what you put. Do you want to say it or you want me to read what you put?
Uh, Either way, I go ahead, please read it.
Okay. As
And then
someone
I'll
who grew up to be a people pleaser, finally accepting myself as I am and knowing that I am on the right path for no one but me. Do you want to expound on that?
absolutely. And it gives me, and thank you for reading it because it even cements it in, if you will, for me even more to hear somebody repeat my words. I mean, it gave me chills because that's how I honestly feel. And deep in my heart of hearts, I knew somewhere deep inside that I was never going to be the person I am meant to be if I would not just allow myself the freedom to do that, to say, this is me. I love me. I accept me just as I am. I am always going to be a work in progress. And guess what? I'm okay with that.
But I mean, I use so many quotes like, why be a second rate version of someone else when you can be a first rate version of yourself? Or be yourself, everybody else is taken. I mean, if we're not accepting ourselves, being ourselves, and living out our purpose that the world needs, because we're our space piece on the puzzle, the jigsaw puzzle. The picture's not going to be complete if we're over here trying to fit in somebody else's space or look like somebody else instead of be our own selves in that space that the world needs. It's not like it's selfish to, I've got to be me. It's you need to be your best self because the world is looking for you and your gifts, just like that person recognized you in the bridal shop. That why are you here? Your gifts are needed. The world needs your gifts somewhere else. All of us have a greatness in us, but every greatness is tailor-made for each person and it looks different. Maybe you are the greatest, I don't know, think of something, hamburger flipper, whatever. But if that's your gift, being there, sharing a positive attitude, encouraging people, you don't know. Whatever it is you are put on this earth with a purpose, you need to be fully you. And it's amazing and exciting that you found your way there and you were able to codify it or systematize it to help other people. And believe me, if there are people, then they have peopleness things. We all have peopleness about us that
Absolutely.
needs
Yeah,
guidance and encouragement and reminders. Be
absolutely.
kind to yourself. I say, who is your best friend? Your best friend, how would you talk to your best friend? Would you say to your best friend, hey, you look terrible today, or you stupid idiot, why'd you do that? Well, we are the only friend that's going to be with us to the very last second of our lives. We need to be friendly to ourselves, which is what you're saying.
Right.
Be
Yeah.
kind, be kind to yourself.
Yeah. I even came up with one of the things that the exercises in the program is coming up with your own mantra or tagline that you repeat to yourself. And you go through and do it several times a day till you really learn it, feel it, breathe it. And it's a free writing experience. And I still say mine. I still say it may not always be the exact words, but I say different variations of it, and it works. It
And
really
what is yours?
So
Is it out
mine is beautiful lady, beautiful girl, beautiful lady here in the world. And that's because I grew up, as you heard me say, feeling that I was just so ugly and didn't belong. And so for me, those words, when I did the free writing exercise to see what came out, that's exactly what came out. And so I'll get dressed now and I'll go put on my jewelry or whatever. And I'm like, man, you look good today, you beautiful lady. I just feel good, just tickled to death inside that I get to be me.
I love that. I love that. Well, that's a great exercise. People need to get with you and work through the program. So your favorite quote is from Albert Einstein, and you don't just like it, you are totally committed to it. He says, once a day, allow yourself the freedom to dream. And you want to show us how committed you are to
Yeah.
that?
I
You,
wear, whoops, let me do my hand right. I wear one of those silicone bracelets every day to
I
remind
love it.
myself because
And
it's important. It's an important part of what happened in life, and it's an important reminder for me.
yeah, well, if we don't have a vision or a purpose or a mission, then it's so easy to say, well, why am I here? I mean, or why should I be here?
Yeah.
And I don't have anything, and you can just spiral down. So it is that mind shift. And those 4 pillars, working with you through those 4 pillars, could certainly be beneficial to help someone take micro task and move forward. Totally, totally. I'm excited about your program because of all the people with their peopleness stuff. They need your what you have, and you're a living testament to the process. That's great. Before we close, do you have anything else you would like to tell us about or share, or last words to our audience?
I would just like to say to the audience, there is a place in this world for every single one of you. And if you've ever felt left out, like you didn't belong, look around and see who it is are on your team, because sometimes we need to change the players on our team, because those people around us need to be the people supporting us, not sinking us.
Excellent, excellent. That is so true. Also, when we look around to see who we can support,
Exactly.
sometimes thinking of other people and it helps us see that we do have purpose and we can contribute. Amazing, Lisa Berry. Thank you so much for being with us today. And audience, remember to stay connected, stay true to yourself, and always know you belong. Until next time on Here Where You Belong, we're signing off. Bye now.
Thanks for tuning in to Hear Where You Belong. We hope today's episode has inspired you to embrace the beauty of belonging in your own life. Remember, no matter where you are or where you're headed, you have a place where you truly belong. Join us again next time for more insightful conversations and heartwarming stories. Until then, stay connected, stay true to yourself, and always remember that you belong.